This week on the Push Pull Legs podcast, we talk about the perception of personal trainers from the client point of view. Also, we give a little overview of SMC books and writing training plans. Three, two, one. I've got your 22p, mate.
Hey guys, welcome to the Push Pull Legs podcast with myself, Dan Meek.
And me, Tom Hall. It's going to be... Wow.
That's my top zero right there.
Opening straight away. I'm a pro, and mine's already open before recording.
I took another one because you chatted so much shit before we came on live that I finished it. So
well, and also we recently have found out that you can send money to each other via Skype.
You can.
Yep, or request it anyway. So I requested a penny.
I'm still waiting on money from Tom.
And then, I know I still owe Dan money, but decided to. I had my debit card blocked since the middle of February and haven't even noticed. So yeah, that's how much I need it.
What happens, guys? We live in that penthouse.
Obviously, I have Apple Pay and credit cards that I normally pay with. Yeah, and the money just leaves my debit account without me knowing. So I don't really know. Didn't realise. Yeah. So don't get all that cash back and points and stuff with debit cards. That's why my credit rating is lovely, Daniel. So you know that. Wonderful. Yeah, mate. What's going on?
Not a lot, mate. Not a lot. Something new that happened though in the last week since the last podcast. Something new has happened. I went and played basketball. I went and joined the basketball.
Oh,
thing.
You joined a what? You joined
yeah, well,
a basketball thing.
Yeah, like a league and everything, like proper, like full on.
Jesus,
like,
you have got too much free time, haven't you?
I know, yeah. Well, it's just, mate, Sunday evenings, mate. Do you know what I mean? That's when it's on. But yeah, no, it was like really random. I was googling to try and find basketball courts, and then randomly, just like the town next to Bath has got like its own league, like full of like 8 teams. Like I was like, it's a tiny town, it's smaller Bath. I was like, how random is that? It's there. Yeah. But yeah, I went along and played 2 hours basketball. Got some blisters on my feet, as you do. And yeah, had a great time.
You got some brand new basketball sweet kicks?
I need to get some now. I've decided.
Yeah, get some. I want to see some basketball high tops that are going to be
like real
absolutely balling.
Like, bright ones like that I could never pull off, but I'm going to buy them anyway. So that white basketball player that just can't pull off his kit. Like, what are you doing, mate?
It's like, come on. What,
sweatband, headband on.
I'm going to be pretty sure you're a village outside of Bath, that there'll be mostly white people.
Yeah, they were mostly, yeah.
I was like, no, don't think that's the case, but yeah, maybe, mate. I think that'll be great. Well, yeah, really good.
It's all just fun. My point of the whole thing, of reason telling people, is that it was fun and it's good to do.
If you want to go watch,
it's good. No, don't go. But it's good to do things that you either used to really enjoy or do things that are totally unrelated. Not totally unrelated, but unrelated to what you do. Something
that I'd actually like to do is go play 5-6-side football again. So if anybody wants to offer me a team in London,
yeah. I think it's for me.
I'm okay.
Like, I don't know. I really think that more people should. I don't know, maybe as I'm getting a bit older, potentially, but I think health and fitness and gym can get a little bit like, all right, is there anything else we can do? Like, I think sometimes, like, when you're in it as a job, like I was saying this to someone the other day, it's like people have this assumption that as a PT or as a trainer or as anyone involved in fitness that you must absolutely love it, and that for yourself it's like, amazing. Most people get into training because they love it. That's quite a lot of people. That's what a lot of people say when they get into the industry. Like, I want to be a PT because I love training. It's like, well, yeah, but you won't love training once you become a PT. Just remember that. And I think that people need to remember that it's like being an accountant and then doing people's accounts all day and then going home and someone going, "Oh, you've got to do your own accounts now."
I love that analogy.
Every single evening, like, brilliant. I don't really want to be doing that, do I? It's not fun. So yeah, I think some people.
Do you think Gordon Ramsay does the cooking in his house?
Well, exactly. I can't imagine he enjoys it if he does. Imagine if he just puts like chicken dippers on in the freezer. Like,
it's just like
straight from the
really
freezer.
Like microwave it. There's no oven, no hob.
But to be fair, he's probably at that point where he doesn't actually do a huge amount of cooking now, so he probably is alright with it. But same thing applies with like cooks and stuff. Like a lot of people that I've ever known who are cooks have awful diets, like the worst, because they just can't. Like, why would you be bothered? You wouldn't want to. So yeah, it's just interesting because for me it's like 2 hours of running around having fun, but like when you actually, if I was to actually work out the amount of cardio or calories burned, it would be like a lot. But I didn't even think about that. It was just fun. So, and I know to a lot of other people who work in an office, the gym is fun. It's their fun time and it's their time. But for me, and I'm sure you're the same, it's not like that. It's not that hour and a half of freedom or like switching your brain off, because you're doing stuff.
Well, even more so that a lot of people have noticed in my gym, and certain trainers and certain clients have noticed, that I tend to train at other gyms. I don't train in the gym that I personal train in. I have to make an effort to go to another place, which I have the luxury that I'm on a group contract, so I kind of go around different places and lecture anyway, but I'll tend to train at a different facility. Yeah, it's not conducive with a great session. I find that the place that I'm working most, so, which is, people are like, oh, you must just train all the time. You live in a gym. I'm like, actually, I trained for a solid 40 minutes today, because I had about 7 clients and I just wanted to get out. I was like, I know I've got to move, but you know what I did? Bench. Oh yeah, bit of bench. Always. I did some benching, did some rowing, like dumbbell rowing, and what else did I do? Oh, some because I've started ollie lifting again and realised that actually split jerks really hard, or any kind of jerk. I haven't done overhead work for quite a long time. Yeah. Because I play a lot of golf, and then that's enough overhead work for me. I realised that I was jerking like 80, 90 kilos.
Steady, mate. You're jerking steady, mate. It's a dangerous territory.
I know, it's a family show. And yeah, I found that really hard. So I can clean above 100, no problem. And then I was just like, well, I'm not going to be able to get this above my head, so what's the point? And I was like, I'm just going to do the clean part of the lift. It's okay. Forget that bit. It's fine. Just pretend I got it up, and then it's fine. Wait,
another one, mate.
Wow, doozy.
Olympic lifting has definitely got the most things.
I know, it's got the most innuendos.
Steady on.
Right, mate. So we got some topics. I'm actually going to start it off because I was on a course on the weekend. Not so much a course, lecture, seminar thing. And even you might know the guy who was running this. And believe it or not, guys, he is not a fan of social media. He is not on social media. So, oh my God, it can't be anybody that's great. No, he's probably one of the most influential people in S&C in the world. But okay.
Must be old, though.
Yeah, he's about 50 plus. But in a room of 26 trainers, this lad moved incredible. Like he must be either early 60s or late 50s. He was the best mover in the place. Like seriously, the guy was unbelievable. How he could just spring off stuff. So Doctor, PhD, every single title under the sun, Ian Jeffries, who has written, I don't know, about 13, 14 books. Probably the biggest one is probably Game Speed is his thing. So he's all plyometrics, acceleration phases, all that kind of stuff. Sprint mechanics, any kind of drill that you've probably done in football, or any speed drill, any sprinting drill, any skips and bounds, and he was probably the one that popularised it within S&C in the UK. I think I'm right in saying he is one of the founders of the United Kingdom Strength and Conditioning Association as well. I think I'm right in saying that. Over like 100 journal articles, absolute baller. And we met him on the weekend, and he came to third base because we're that good for bringing people in to train our trainers. 26 high performers, and me and Josh.
Don't include Josh in that. Yeah.
And us, because
I bet James Ralph was in his element, was he?
James Ralph. It was quite funny actually, because obviously me and James. If anybody knows James Ralph on Instagram, it's JR Athlete's Edge.
He trains professional athletes basically.
So he trains pro athletes a lot of the time. Like he's got the guy who's the current 400 meter world champion, or that lad who's Ralphie showed me his previous S&C program. I was like, "You're kidding, right?" He was like, "No." He's won the Olympic World Championship gold medal, and that was his program. He was like, it was awful. I was like, wow.
What was he doing, like push-pull legs or chest day? Or,
yeah, just hypertrophy, mate. Yeah. It was shocking. Yeah, he does a lot of Crystal Palace players. He's working for like Matheus de Ligt and all these kind of young guns. But yeah, it was quite interesting because they end up disagreeing on a lot of stuff. And I think Ian, because he's, no offense to the lad, there's probably some new stuff that's coming out, and he said he was like, yeah, I'm still influential, I'm still doing a lot of stuff, I'm still doing research, but I'm more coaching now and consulting, all this kind of stuff. But he was like, there's some stuff that's coming out of the States which I totally disagree with, and it's happening in the States at the moment. And then Ralphie takes a lot of stuff from the States, so he did his internship, I want to say at Stanford or Harvard.
Harvard, wasn't it?
Harvard, wasn't he? Yeah. So he did Harvard sports, didn't he? They're Div 1 or Div 2, aren't they, sports? So pretty decent, like unbelievable facilities. And then, but there's some stuff that he, disagree with. Also, me and Ralphie had the same lecturers, because we did, I did the bachelor's on his master's. I did a separate master's degree to him. But we both had the same lecture, so I mentioned him to Ian, and then I was like, "Oh, how'd you like our lecturer?" As Anthony Turner was our main guy, and he was like, "I don't know." I was like, "Jesus Christ, okay."
Not don't mention anyone's name. Just don't mention anyone's name.
He was like, "Yeah, not a massive fan." I was like, "Oh, brilliant. Okay, cool, wonderful." Okay, that's where all of my stuff's from. So if I do anything wrong, blame him. So it was interesting, yeah. But Ralphie obviously loved him. Like, he's like one of the godfathers of it, all bounding and stuff. So go look him up if you haven't. He's written like tens of books. Like, so go look him up. Which actually decided me upon this next little snippet, Dan. I decided just to quickly, because we don't get this question very often, but every now and again it crops up, and it's, what books or what stuff did you read or have you read whilst you've been going through your career? Maybe, I don't know, you've ever had that?
Yeah,
I have at some point. So I thought, based off the S&C stuff, I would have a little snippet of books I've used or probably cited or flicked through or pretended to read.
I'd say looked at the pictures.
Looked at the pictures, gone, that looks about right. Sweet. I'm going to just drag and insert that little like figure 1. Oh yeah, put that in the appendix. Nice. So Ian Jeffrey's obviously got a lot of S&C books. So the ones that I was just going to go through, well, you got, say, authors, so people can go get these if they really want to. But Kramer was a big one. So Science and Practice of S&C, so strength training. Big one. Super Training is a big one. That's a bit nerdy. I know that.
Very nerdy.
Very nerdy. Guy called Mel Sif. And I don't know how this, I'm not even bothered. It'll be like the whole Alex Krajewski thing again. Advances in Functional Training, which is classic Mike Boyle. Starting Strength. If you're a PT and you don't know what that is, then quit. Just quit your job. Mark Ripto, and he's also got the Practical Programming for Strength Training, which is also Mark Ripto, and Andy Baker. Doesn't get any credit though. My lecturer. Obviously, I had to read his books. It's kind of paramount doing his courses. Advanced Strength Conditioning, an Evidence-Based Approach. He's the editor of Journal of S&C. That's why he kind of has to be evidence-based. And I think probably the one that had the biggest amount of influence on me was Human Anatomy and Physiology with Biomechanics of Sport Techniques. By a person.
That sounds like a riveting read.
Oh mate, it's absolutely amazing. By Elaine Marieb. But yeah, she's basically only does like physiology and all that kind of stuff. All the strength training core I kind of love, but I read probably more journals and make stuff off that. Anything. And all the rehab stuff I kind of is very much the same. And I kind of go towards people like Dr. Brent Bush for physio help and all that kind of stuff. Wonderful. Dan, any nutritional or your books that you might have, if you've got any? I don't know.
I get asked all the time about nutrition books. And like the problem with nutrition books is that with obviously S&C and stuff, there's obviously certain things that have happened that there's been breakthroughs, people write about them and they kind of stick.
Yeah.
But the problem with nutrition is that like bar like the basic textbooks, like the fundamentals of nutrition, like the ISSN do one, it's a fucking absolute doorstop of a book. Like it's all just people's opinions, and we know that with nutrition people's opinions is not good, like really not good. So like I think Al-Aragon had one out, like the Lean Muscle Diet, but again it's more of a diet book. It's not really a
we're probably not going to tell people to buy that one though.
No, well, no. But like that's what I mean is like it's more like diet books rather than like this is nutrition or this is how I learn about nutrition. So that's why in nutrition you have to do more courses. Whereas with training you can probably read a bit more and go, right, well that is true. Like that's just physics. Like I know that to be true. The mechanics of that make sense. And in nutrition it should be like that, with calories in and calories out. But it's not. People don't talk about that because it's boring.
Because it wouldn't be a big book, would it? Unless you
put
that.
But I feel like with S&C, there's a lot more. I suppose there's a lot more application to someone's opinion. Whereas in nutrition, people's opinion is like, it wouldn't really matter what your opinion is. It's like find something that you adhere to or whatever. So. Yeah. It causes less controversy in the training world, I suppose, if someone's got a theory. Except that fucking Naudi guy, who's just a moron.
Yeah, we haven't talked about him in a while. I did. Yeah. Somebody mentioned him to me the other, I think, like 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I was like, oh my god! And I kind of like he's gone off the radar a bit. Naudi Aguilar. What's his company? Functional Patterns. And I was like, fictional patterns. Yeah, I was like, yeah, the guy that makes badass training videos. Yeah, I was like, his videos amazing, like seriously great. But yeah, tiny little guy swinging a thing around, very funny.
Yeah,
if you want some good crack, just go watch some of that. No, it's quite fun, or a good laugh. So no nutritional stuff. You're just
no, genuinely like I wouldn't really recommend that many books. I don't. Any nutritional knowledge I've ever had, it's not been from books, it's been from courses. And I know Martin McDonald's got his tour on at the moment. If anyone's interested, I probably, he's a guy who knows what he's doing. He's spoken at Third Space. I've done his course. Likewise, Josh has got his course on. Again, like I think people do courses because with nutrition, even if you don't want to be a nutritionist, you just want to learn more. Like courses from reputable people are the way forward. And I don't know, maybe, again, I have got plans in the future at some point to do talks and stuff like that. Obviously, I don't do them at the moment. But, maybe in 5 years' time when me and Tom are still doing this podcast when we're grey and older, I'll be doing talks and I'd say come to a talk. But it seriously is, you learn a lot more from listening to someone that you trust and you enjoy. Much like I suppose Tom just said there about, you listen to people that you like in S&C. It's kind of similar in nutrition. Except for it's just a lot harder to take away and implement straight away. Like you'll go to a course of S&C and you'll come away with it and go, right, I'm going to implement this stuff because you can. Whereas with nutrition, it's like, well, you might require the right person or the right situation to try certain things. So it's a bit different from that point of view. So it is more, I suppose, good courses and reputable people, which again is a fucking minefield in itself, right? So yeah. Not that useful. Sorry, guys.
I could be slightly more useful as well because we did just mention James Ralph and his Athlete's Edge. So if you go to JR_Athlete's Edge on Instagram, and he is a good decent friend of mine. So I do know that he has written an ebook, and I believe it is dropping. It is just dropped the day before this goes out. I think it's the Monday. It's out now, basically. It's definitely dropped. So go to his Instagram. I'm gonna tag him in the post when I put this up. He deserves that enough because it's
again not to for anyone listening, not to downplay James Ralph and what he does and anything like that because he works with like top athletes. But just remember, again, I can imagine everyone just going and fucking downloading it or whatever. But remember as well, like demographics and like your clientele. Like if your clientele or demographic is 35 to 50 and they want to do weight loss, bounding around is probably not going to be hugely beneficial for them. Like, please just remember that as well. Like, think about who you're working with. All this stuff is great, but again, it's knowing the individual and who you're applying it to.
Yeah. It is
just
good.
Before I see people tagging us in there,
just like boom, bounce around. But it's absolutely. If you want to really learn the application of some of this stuff in rehab, then I started talking about that on the weekend as well. And I was like, wait a minute, because there was some misconception about like all of this stuff is applied to just athletes. And I was like, yeah, but then it's again fitting how I would say with the continuum theory. It's like, all right, how do I scale this? Down into, so we started talking about cartilage regeneration. There's research on some sort of plyometrics and jumping within that, and I'm like, all right, well, how do we do that safely? So it's the similar kind of stuff, but it's scaled down to what's happening on the knee level and cartilage level and stuff like that. So it's really cool. So have a look, go download it. It's like footballers, all that kind of stuff. It's good fun.
Yeah, trying to get footballers to do any sort of athletic
I
maneuver.
know, do it, mate. You can't get him in the weights room, so it is funny.
That's obviously how James has like made a lot of his name, is that he's had people come to him because obviously the footballers that he works with have got their own S&C coaches if they want them, but they've gone to him privately and pay him, and that just shows you, like,
if people go and have a look at his stuff, then message on that post that he said he's dropping that you want him on the show, because I actually have invited him on the show before to talk about what he does, because I find it quite interesting, but he is shy as hell and doesn't really want to talk about stuff. I was like, mate, you go, like, you know, a lot of stuff, clearly, like, it'd be great. But yeah, obviously me and Dan aren't very shy, so
I was about to say, well, to be fair, he's going to be the smartest guy on the course.
I know,
so don't worry about that.
It's just you got me and Josh just like blah 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 blah. No, this is right. He's just sitting in the corner like, oh, I wish they'd shut up. But yeah, it's fine. All right. Dan actually came up with some content for today. We've rambled for about 20 minutes without actually saying anything, but apart from S&C books, they're for good fun. So you sent me some research. Every now and again,
a research paper, mate.
Stuff breaks through. But he did use. If anybody uses this, then what are you doing? Facebook Messenger. Dan popped up. It's usually just like really random. Like, I think like you're at the top, right, and then the next one down is somebody who's. Good evening, Tom. We've launched a new franchise called H3. I don't know what that means. And then, hey, Tom, thanks for connecting. I saw that you're a coach. That's really awesome. Wasn't Ben Cooper. And I like connecting with coaches. Looking forward to your reply. Obviously, I blanked them. How long have you been a coach for? Right.
Tom, I think this just shows people how few friends you have.
I don't use Messenger at all.
You don't have any friends, mate. That's why. Yeah. Don't worry about it.
But all right.
But yeah, basically, the research I sent Tom some scientific research that actually shows. I'm going to pull it up on my computer while I describe it to you. But basically, shows that as a personal trainer.
Do you want me to say the title, mate? It would be better.
You can say the title if you want. Yeah, it's up to you.
Is what you see what you get?
Doesn't really tell you anything, does it, mate? Brilliant.
Perceptions of personal trainers' competence, knowledge, and preferred sex of personal trainer relative to physique.
So basically, in this research, again, you can only see the abstract, and it was published by. It was published by. Have you got the actual full thing? Have you? Yeah. You're a society member. But basically, it was reposted by Brad Schoenfeld. And basically, the long and short of it is that, unfortunately, as a personal trainer, your ability and competence and knowledge is judged by the general public on how you look. That is what the study found, basically, is that PTs who are muscular or generally have lower levels of body fat were perceived to be significantly more knowledgeable and competent than their non-muscular peers. So I'm fucked straight away. Brilliant.
But
also, the interesting thing is here, and I think this is also because of, especially in the UK, I'd imagine this would also be because of a lack of them, but female PTs were perceived as more competent and knowledgeable than male PTs. I think that's because there are less of them, so therefore the assumption is if you're a female PT, you must be good. I just think and that's not saying, obviously, anyway, I'm going to, before I get on. But yeah, I think that's generally like the thinking there is that I think that there's a lot of that going on. But basically the consensus is collectively PT physique seems to have a profound influence whether they are approached or avoided. These findings may have implications for how PTs market themselves to potential clients. And it's something that we've talked about previously on the podcast, and I think that the thing that I got out of this was it's good to see some research backing up what we had already said. And this is again where the whole thing around, I suppose, evidence-based, practice is that you form opinions and then it's backed up by research. And obviously there's that, I suppose, marrying of the two, where you have research will always be a little bit behind things that come up in practice. And it just shows you that we've said this for a while, that unfortunately you are judged on how you look as a PT. Yeah. You shouldn't be. It doesn't affect your knowledge or anything like that, but your perception from the outside world will be based on that. And it's just kind of, I suppose, putting some numbers to that. And it is obviously based in America, but it carries over regardless of what people think. Unfortunately, the perception of personal trainers is that the fitter you are, more muscular you are, whatever, you're gonna potentially, straight off the bat anyway, if someone looks at you, that will be their perception of your knowledge. If, like you said, I mean, Tom looks like a sack of shit, but he knows his stuff. So luckily, he knows, people know he knows his stuff. He's all right. And he's
why else do you think we're both on basically what is basically radio?
Yeah. And also the other thing as well is, like, I think this applies to, obviously, to people, any trainers, I suppose. But then the other thing that I would add to this that I don't think it goes into, which is huge in our industry and is one of the biggest things, is social proof. If you were a larger trainer or a not in shape trainer, but you had fuckloads of clients and they were all waxing lyrical about you, how amazing you are, how they love what you're doing, I would suggest that would then have less influence. The fact that you look like Tom, so don't worry about
that. I have clients, I think. Not anymore. But yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Like, there's some assumptions on there that because obviously us in the industry know the kind of general standard of the industry, and it makes no bearing whatsoever, as far as we're concerned, about whether someone is what they perceive, whether their knowledge, like competence and knowledge, they're not the same thing. Competence is the ability to get your client to do stuff which is relevant to their goals, really, without injuring them, I'd assume, or making them lose weight. Just basically achieve their goal in the best way possible, I'd say. Competence. Knowledge is having the actual, like, I don't know, accreditations and education and practice to put that to their client. And it just makes no sense that someone that maybe a larger individual wouldn't have both of those over a more muscular individual. They for sure. Well, it's not even that, because it could be perceived like a larger individual could be a strongman or something like that. So they have way more competence and knowledge within that field. But then I guess they'd have clients that they were going down that way. Yeah, so it's interesting. It obviously, but they do explain that they have to think about this for marketing. These findings may have implications for how PTs market themselves to potential clients. So what we've said is we generally get clients that are very much similar to ourselves, and I've had clients say they like training with me because I don't, in a kind of backhanded compliment, I'm not massive, or like I'm not a freak, that kind of thing. He's like, actually, you're in shape, but you're normal. So
whenever we look at that sort of stuff, I 100% agree. I think if you market yourself as you'll attract people who want to work with you and all that sort of stuff. I just think that we have to be smart enough to understand that there are millions of people out there who walk into gyms every day, and like, our select people who follow us, our select people that work with us, are just that, a very select few. And that we're talking about the majority here. We're talking about the majority of people who would walk into a gym. You would ask 100 people, which of these trainers would you want to work? Would you work with if you could afford it? Blah blah blah. Again, that's all this research is. It's not anything, saying about demographics or understanding demographics, or someone might have, been 40 stone and now they're 15 stone, and that's a huge, amazing story that they help other people who do the same thing, but they still might be perceived to be overweight. Now, there's all these caveats to it, and there's all these what ifs, and my demographic, this demographic. The fact is, the majority of people would have the view that this paper's found. That's the overriding fact. It's like if we were to have a choice between two lawyers, and we were sat there, one was scruffy as fuck and the other one was sat there prim and proper and smart in a nice suit, and they both cost the same, you'd go with that guy.
Yeah.
Most people would. Like, and I think that's the other thing you have to remember here is a lot of people walk into gyms, go, right, PSPT costs this much, same as this guy, well, I'll go with that guy because he looks like, it's just what people would do naturally. And I think it's why a lot of the time, like you say, in the online world or whatever, you have a specific niche, it's very, very useful to have that, because you'll attract those people who want that niche. Likewise with third space, I would argue a lot of the trainers in third space would all be similar to yourself, Tom, in that they would be non-intimidating. That's actually a good thing, to be non-intimidating, to have social skills, to be able to have empathy with these clients. But the third space is a unique gym. It's not
we have had that previously, where, believe it or not, some trainers, this happens in certain fields, that sometimes they put on pictures and stuff on their CVs, right? And obviously, with trainers being how they are, if we have your CV and we have your name, chances are we can probably find you on Instagram or Facebook, and we do that for every single application. And if we see someone who doesn't fit the brand on that, we're not going to go with them. So, which is an interesting thing, right? We're not even getting past the first stage. You wouldn't even get a call back.
But I think there's also a reason why, especially when I was at the third space, like with all the same thing, some people have body composition goals and stuff like that, and I might have got a bit leaner, but I was no way fucking big or intimidating anyway, apparently. But is that there's a reason then, I believe, that the third space had a penetration rate that it did with the members that would then train. It was, I think when I was there, I remember something stupid like 25%, I think.
Yeah, we're a little bit lower than that now, but it's
because there's so many members. Yeah, so that's going to happen. But even still, I would suggest the third space as a group would have the highest penetration rate of most gyms, especially of any gym
in
commercialised
gym, because they're obviously PT like gyms or whatever, blah blah blah. But obviously,
and I think that's probably in commercialized gyms and again the price point of third space and the locations of third space, they would, again, there's people that go to the gyms are smart enough to know it's not all just about someone looks. They would delve deeper into, well, what do you do? What's your qualifications? I need a referral, like previous results from people. But when you look at the bigger picture and think about all the pure gyms, the Snap Fitnesses, all these sorts of things, unfortunately the perception is always going to be, how does someone look? Again, Joe Wicks wouldn't be where he was if he was 20 stone. He wouldn't be.
No.
That's a fact. And I think it's just, regardless how nice a guy he is or his niche, he wouldn't be able to reach the millions of people he does. The reason he reaches the millions of people he does is because he's in shape and he's not overly big, like you're saying there. But I think that when you look at the research, it's not about being overly big. It's about having a certain look. And we would all fit that look. I know we joke, but we probably would. So yeah, I just think it's worth thinking about. Like, again, I'm not saying
I fit that look. Bearded, 2 earrings, madness. Yeah.
Yeah, mate, when you roll your sleeves up, you look like you've got some sort of an bicep and tricep. So you're all right, mate.
Never train them as well. Madness.
That's how bad your pulling and pushing is, mate. Your bis and tris.
I'm just ollie lifting now, so no tension.
Yeah. But I just think it's worth thinking about, again, like, just as a trainer, if you are a trainer or whatever, just think about that and just think about what your niche is, who you're going after. If you're going after a certain niche, a specific niche, or you just want to be yourself, just be yourself. I'm not 100% that will work.
I like the female PTs were perceived more competent. I think it's quite interesting. In my however many years of an educator or mentor kind of person now, probably been doing it for about 3.5 years. I have no statistics to back this up. Sorry, it's not completely evidence-based, totally anecdotal. But from people I have taught, females tend to ask better questions about things that we're discussing.
Yeah, it's because blokes just go, how much you bench, mate? and you go, oh, shut up, mate. Only shut up. My weakest lift. I'm deadlift, though.
There's a massive, generalisation. But yeah, I found that. They're generally a little bit more engaged, maybe. Or they're just like looking at me like, this guy. I basically am not the, for the guys, just they don't deem me competent or knowledgeable because I'm not big.
Yeah, there you go, exactly.
Like, what's this guy doing?
This guy can't teach me nothing. He can't bench over 100.
He's got a broken hip. He's meant to be a rehabber. What's going on? It's like, yeah, but I'm constantly rehabbing, so I'm constantly updating my mind. So it's fine. Yeah, very strange, but it's an interesting topic, isn't it?
I just think if you've got, if like with me, like I use it to my advantage. The fact that I'm not big, I'm going to attract people that aren't as big. That's just, use it to your advantage.
Just stand as close to the camera as possible. That's what you do.
Yeah, exactly. Use the angle. But then you can relate to people who struggle with then being the smaller people, right? But again, I'm just talking about, it's just the science, it's just the majority, it's just all that sort of stuff. Don't shoot me down, don't get knickers in a twist. It's just what this is saying, that the general perception is that, and unfortunately that's the case, like just the way it is.
Well, Journal of S&C research, March 18, 2019. It's pretty recent, mate. 2019, March 18th. That was like 3 days ago.
There you go. It's current.
Mate, we are current, on point. All right, you wanted to answer a question on this show as well. Apparently, we didn't put any question Q&As out on our feeds, but you did last week?
Well, one of our favourite listeners asked me a question, and I said I'd cover it.
Yeah. Hey, Josh.
No, I didn't say co-host.
Do I have to get that up?
I sent it to you.
I got it. But I didn't really get what. So Dan sent me his Instagram story because I don't really look at them. Seen by 23 people, mate.
I know, mate. Right. I'm so confident.
Surprised you got a response.
That's how quick Hannah was with her question. Straight in there.
I know. Yeah, we're steadily rising to 25 by the end of that day. What aspect? So this was your question. What aspect of writing a training plan do you find the most difficult? I didn't know whether you were asking me this at the start or just like. Or
I know you struggle with writing training plans, Tom.
I was like, I'm all right. So making it progressive, knowing when and by how much to increase the weight and or reps, and I'll put a caveat and or exercise. Increase the exercise. Change the exercise. Shock your muscles, bro. And what was even better about this picture is Dan put a little coffee cup on his face.
Yeah, because I sent you a
vast
screenshot,
improvement.
And because when I screenshotted it, my eyes were all over the place and it looked horrific. And I was like, Tom's going to use this against me, so I was like, I'm just putting a coffee cup over it.
I've never seen anybody really use those coffee cups. They're like really random on.
No, but I couldn't put anything else on it. I couldn't. Really? It was the only thing that would go over the top of it that worked. I was like, oh fuck it, I'll just send it.
I put a head on somebody else's head the other day when we were I don't know, not compared to somebody, put with Mr. Coomber. I put a thing on his face. Vast improvement.
Well, I just put the coffee cup on it. It was just easier.
I gave him a Lego head. It was great. Yeah. So, yeah, massive improvement. But yeah, making it progressive, knowing when and by how much to increase the weight and or reps. So if anybody has an issue with this, I guess Dan's an answer it. I do enough programming.
Oh, brilliant! Well, I think the reason I said I would answer on the podcast is because it's so many variables and so many things that you can utilize to make it progressive. So, for example, over a 12-week plan, you could, in terms of volume, you could progress it where the first 6 weeks you might do 3 sets of 8, and then in the second 6 weeks you might do 4 sets of 8. So you've therefore increased the amount of volume you're doing, and that's progressive by definition. And then it could be within that you do the first week you might do 3 sets of 8, and then you might go to 3 9s, 3 10s, 3 11s, 3 12s. Therefore you're making it more progressive as you go through by adding more volume. The weight might come down that you use potentially depending on your energy status. If you're eating enough calories, that should be doable. You can also do things where you go you might do 3 sets of 8 consistently for the first 6 weeks, and you might say but the last set's an AMRAP, and you might say on the last set you do as many reps as possible. So the idea being on that last set you're obviously going to hopefully do more reps over that time. That is being progressive. You don't have to therefore change any of the weights in that program. You might just use the same, and then you're focusing on that last set of the AMRAP, and that's where you're getting your progression each time. So that's a way of making it progressive without really changing the weights. And then there's a way of obviously changing the weights and going, you might say that so you would do 3 sets of 8, and let's say you're doing shoulder press with 10 kilos, 3 sets of 8. And then the next week you might do 2 sets of 8 with the 10s and then 1 with the 12s. And then the next week you might only, on the second set you might do 12 kilos but only manage 4 reps. So you put them down and pick up the 10s and do another 4 reps. Almost like a drop set, but still keeping it quite difficult. There's so many ways that you're making it progressive. And with training plans, I think the problem that people find is that they try and make them and write them to be progressive, when actually the intensity which you train at is the progressive thing, is you pushing yourself each session, that you're making it progressive. The training plan itself doesn't need to be progressive in the sense that it goes up in reps or sets over the weeks. It's literally just you then pushing as hard as you can on that last set for the AMRAPs potentially. It's a progressive training plan. That's why it's so hard to answer in an Instagram story about how to make it progressive, because there's so many ways to do that. It depends on your goal. what exercise you're doing, because some exercises don't lend themselves well to AMRAP sets. Like, for example, if you did lateral raises, well, it's just like at some point you might just get a bit bored. It's like, well, where do you stop, or where do you push? Where's the form go with that? So there's loads of different ways, and this is what I also wanted to get Tom's view on it, because Tom obviously knows more than me about this sort of stuff with programming or whatever. But I think that to make it progressive, you don't have to necessarily have it written down, like, to be progressive week on week. Like, you can make it progressive week on week just by pushing yourself.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? Because there are so many different variables, like you just said. So, obviously, Billy Basic stuff is adding a rep, adding a set, adding a load. And in that order is how I would do it. Because adding one rep, generally on speaking, adding one rep is going to be less volume load over time. Obviously, incrementing weight can be, for newbies, pretty easy. So if you're a newbie, go weight. If you're not, go reps, sets, weights. Really, basically. Then I tend to, probably guys that have been training with me for a year and a half, I tend to progress equipment a lot more instead of load or any kind of reps or anything like that. I would leave a lot of stuff very, 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 very similar. And instead of, he'll probably listen to this right now, a lad called Alex, who's got pretty much exactly the same training plan that he's had for 3 months. It is nearly exactly the same, barring a couple of reps. But I think nearly, I'm going to say 75% of the exercises are all the same movements, just with slightly different pieces of equipment. So they're going to be slightly different angles, slightly different grips, slightly different offsets, all this kind of stuff. For us, it's great because he enjoys that kind of training. He knows what he's doing. He's in and out. He's 3 times a week. Boom. For other people, that might be a bit boring. I don't know. But it is very progressive, and he'll start low and end up in 3 months. That's the progression. I'm asking somebody to go over 3 months of training without really stopping. Maybe you have a chill week after 6. That's about it. So that's equipment based. I think the big in this question is, I think making it progressive, I think we can all do. Intensity, reps of failure, kind of giving you a mark out of 10, whether it was good, all that kind of stuff, reps, blah, blah, blah. But knowing when is probably the skill in that statement.
I also think it's but I also think, like, because Hannah mentioned it, she messaged me and she was like, basically sign up for online coaching with me, and I was like, well, I was like, that's the other thing, is like, people try and do it themselves and worry and stress about all this stuff so much, but yet they never stick to anything. They'll write themselves a 12-week plan, and they don't stick to it.
I mean, we do that. We could both sit here, and me and Dan can write each other or ourselves the most perfect plan ever that will, for us right this moment, and be like, oh yeah, I'll do that. Guarantee, because we're accountable to only ourselves and each other. Maybe we won't do it.
No. and it's that whole thing of, like, I think I do it all the time. Like, I've just written myself a training program now, right? And I've not even written out any of the weeks. I've just gone, right, these are the exercises I'm going to do, and I'm just going to see how I feel for 2 weeks doing it. Because I know if I wrote out every single rep, set, and progression, I wouldn't fucking do it. I'm going to try each session first, just do 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps, see how I feel, whatever, blah, blah. Because I know that realistically I'm not going to stick to a 12-week plan. Because, like you said, I've written it myself. Like, there's not really anything. I'm not really that fussed about doing it. Whereas if someone else was writing it for me, I'd do it. I would 100% do it. And it may not be as good as I think I can do my own plan, but because someone else is doing it for me and I'm paying them, I'm not going to waste my money. I'm just going to do it. Lo and behold, all my clients, they do their training plans and they go, oh my God, it's as long as I've ever stuck to a plan for. I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, of course it is. Because I can see that, because that's why you've struggled up to this point. Because up to this point, you write yourself a plan. After 3 weeks, you second guess. You decide that your weak area now is actually your arms. You're not doing enough arms. You want to do arms every day, so you cut out all the other shit. And then you write yourself a whole new plan again.
So,
and then something comes
say
up,
in a perfect world, they actually follow the plan. How do we know when they need to change things?
Well, I look at things on a volume load basis. So we we'll look at volume load over weeks, over a 12-week plan. We'll also look at if there's any exercises that they're stuck on with a weight, or they're stuck on a certain thing. Again, looking at videos of people training. That's what I would do. I get videos of people doing these exercises. So, for example, they're like, oh, I'm stuck on this for a while. We'll go, right, let's have a look at form, let's tweak form, all this sort of stuff. And there's other aspects to it where as well, linked to, again, calorie status, energy balance. So it's like, okay, well, if I've got a client who for a few weeks has been like, oh, I can't really move my back squat, it's been struggling. And I'm like, right, well, you're probably just at maintenance calories. Like, why don't we shift you up, eat a bit more, move some of your carbs around from after your training session to before your training session. Lo and behold, 2 weeks later, oh yeah, my back squat's improving. No, we haven't really changed a huge amount in terms of their program. That could just be nutrition, and that's the luxury I have potentially.
Yeah.
Now I'm looking at this stuff a little bit more, but again, over time, looking at volume load, you can see when people are stalling and when things are stopping, and then I can, like I said, relate that back to stress, sleep, all these other things, and I can go, okay, there's something going on here. It's just another thing to add to the equation. And I think when you're in person PT, there's a lot more things you can do with technique tips and go, actually, hang on a minute, like, that's what.
Yeah,
whereas I can't do that.
In person PT, knowing when to progress something, I can do it straight away. So Dan has to be a little bit more rigid and probably stick to the literature where it says either like a 3 to 6 week mesocycle based off that, or the calorie consumption that you've had, or the fact that you've been stuck on. So the volume load, that's what I mean by mesocycle. So that's just a set amount of time you'd probably be doing very similar exercises, whether it be that kind of clear progression or the same kind of exercises and reps and sets and stuff before you change it around. So you kind of have to stick to that unless your client would message you, and then you still don't particularly know. So whereas in-person PT, which I would assume that most of the guys listening are, you have the ability to change it within 2 seconds and be like, I'm done with this. They progress. They don't need to do this movement. They don't need to do this load. They don't need to do this. Bum, bum, bum. You can physically see it, or they need to come down. So you can do that in person. So I feel like that's a skill in itself. And that should be if the client is struggling, if you can clearly see that it is too easy. You'll either have one end of the spectrum or the other. They will lie. Well, they both lie. That it's either way too easy, or they'll just be like, yeah, it's good, even though it's like incredibly hard. Like it is like 9, 10 out of 10. They are gassed the whole time. Form's failing. They're like, yeah, no, that was good. That was good. Like, what? No, it wasn't. It was awful.
No,
that's your call. There's where you've got to coach and bring the weight down. Don't care about their ego. Just be blunt and be like, no, that's shit. I say that quite a lot. And I'll be like, yeah, those last two are crap, so we're coming down. Yeah. Or they'll be like, oh, this is super heavy, and they're nowhere near any limit at all, and they have no idea. And I have plenty of those as well, where they would find moving tough sometimes. So like, well, we have to go upstairs. I was like, yes, the piece of equipment I want is upstairs. So we have to go there. So there's certain stuff we're like, oh no, we've never lifted a 10 before. I was like, yes, we have. It's like, no, we haven't. I've written it down. Unless I've written it down wrong, I don't know. Which is interesting in itself. But so knowing when to do that is based off the client, really. If you're doing it yourself, I know when I feel like I can push myself, and 100% that's day to day. My general rule of thumb, if you train 4 times a week, people have definitely heard me say this: 1 will be fantastic, 2 will be mediocre, and 1 will be crap. Just law of averages. That's what's going to happen. Today, I have like 95 kilos on a football bar. Felt super, super, super heavy, if I'm honest. So probably because I was training on the back of 7 clients, but that was probably my sit session. I might be good tomorrow or incredibly mediocre. So yeah, probably about fuel, that kind of stuff. So based off that, you can progress. But as a rule of thumb for a newbie, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. Then move your weights up, or move your reps up, or change your exercise slightly. And I'd be really happy with that. And then after those 4, 5, 6 weeks, maybe instead of you doing like your classic bodybuilding split, I don't know who put it out today. was like fantastic post. Was I want to say it was an old school like S&C coach, like Dan John or something like that. And he was just like, if you're a beginner to intermediate lifter and you're following a classic bodybuilding program, the best thing to do to progress in strength or to progress is just shove one of your main exercises right at the front, do 3 to 5 reps of it heavy, and you've probably got yourself a pretty good program. I was like, yeah, to be fair, probably that probably sounds about right. If I took one of Dan's easy little hypertrophy workouts, put some classic strength work on front of it, it would be amazing. So just go grab one of those off his Instagram. It's fine.
Mate, you've been proud of me today. I did single arm rows. I did rollouts.
Rollouts?
Yeah, I know.
I always just whack them in randomly, and then I'll be sore for like 4 days.
Yeah, I know I'm going to be so sore tomorrow. Oh, well.
But they're good. Like, they're classic. That's a classic strength move, that. You get the freaks from powerlifting and do the full stand-in ones.
It's so hard.
You're like, what? Okay. So, very strange. But I hope we've kind of answered that in a roundabout way. There's lots of different variables. Pick one.
Again, it's just something people overcomplicate it.
I think so.
Stress too much about. Like that's the bottom line.
I think until you plateau, keep doing the same shit. And then if nothing's going up, or your reps and sets and your weights aren't going up, then you start switching stuff around. Then seek advice more than anything else. And there's plenty of advice, especially, was it Hannah who got F45, third space, wherever, Barry's? I'm sure somebody will give you some sort of credible answer. I wouldn't go to two of those. Two of those, but yeah. Higher incline, right? That's one of them. Higher incline. Run faster, that kind of cool.
Just jump more.
Yeah, mate. All right. Any other business?
No, but no other business.
We're good, mate. Nice. A tight 50-ish minutes of whatever we've talked about today. Wonderful. All right, thank you to everybody who has listened today, and those ratings are still pumping up. We're like 100 teens at the moment, which is pretty cool. Incredible. I'd like, by the end of March now? By Easter, can we get that above 125 ratings?
That would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it'd be cool. Yeah, got to get that. So we probably need like another 15-ish, I reckon.
Oh, please, Easter. Guys, that'd be amazing.
Do that. Easy. Yeah, I've got nothing else to say, so we will catch you next week.
See you later.